The following podcast is brought to you by the Pro Football Central Radio Network.
Who's got it better than us? Nobody!
They were staring at me like, what's up, Ant? What's up, man? Got my shirt off, the grill too packed. It can't be burnt, man. It's cooking too fast. Oh, man, pull out my slabs. Mike Jackson.
Yes. Once again, back in the house, Niner Talk Central. This is Turron Davenport, your host. I'm going to welcome in my co-host, Oscar Operacio. Oscar, what's up with you, man?
What is happening today? It's a fantastic day. Football is back. Smile on my face. It's hot as hell outside. The world is right.
Well, you know, it's interesting you bring up the heat because you heard the music that let us in, Rib City. It's summertime. You know what we do in the summertime? We grill. We're going to bring in the master of the grill. They call him, he's so sweet on the grill, they call him Spice. Yeah, that's Anthony Adams. Anthony, what's good with you, man?
Nothing much, man. Just chilling, man. Having a good time.
Now, for those of you who don't know, this is a former 49ers defensive tackle. He moved on to the Bears and had a very good career, and he had one of the most unique retirement ceremonies. You want to go ahead and share that with us real quick?
Yeah. I had just so happened to be riding by White Castle, and I was like, let's go in there and shoot it. Nobody seems to be in there. And so I just act like I had this big press conference and everybody was supposed to come. But, of course, nobody was in there. And I had on a suit and the whole nine. And we filmed my retirement ceremony in there. And I just put it up on YouTube. Next thing I know, it went viral. I think it has like 1.2 million views right now.
Yeah, that's what's up, man. Appreciate that. That was very creative. So let's go ahead and jump into this 49ers team. As you know, Glenn Dorsey went down with the injury. Ian Williams, the D tackle, he was brought off of the PUP list. And then I don't know if you watched the Ravens and 49ers game, but Quentin Dial out of Alabama really showed off a very tall zero technique, which is something that's unique. What are your thoughts on the 49ers D tackle position?
Where's Isaac at? Is Isaac still out there?
No, you know what? Soap moved on. He's just chilling. He's not on any roster anywhere.
He's trying to figure out where to climb a palm tree and get some coconut. That's how he used to train. He used to climb. I'm not saying that like disparagingly. I'm saying that like he actually used to train that way. He used to climb trees.
Yeah, he was very athletic, man. But I think if he's still out there, it'd be worth a shot to call him and say, hey, man, we got a position open for you, man. Once you come back, I'm sure he probably would love to. But
they just activated Ian Williams off the PUP this week, actually today, I think. So his ankle had a pretty nasty ankle injury in week 2 against Seattle. They broke his ankle on one of those little cutback rollover blocks that are now illegal. But he's back now, so the defensive line has got some reinforcements. And remember, this is a guy who actually beat out Glenn Dorsey in week 1 and week 2. So he was the presumptive starter. And then, of course, Glenn Dorsey comes in and plays the season probably of his career. And ends up making us all forget about Ian Williams.
Yeah, that's tough, man, to go down like that, man, especially after you've been working so hard in the offseason. And, you had something like that happen where your position gets taken from you. And to work back, to get back to dominance, man, it's hard when you get that injury. And it's going to be a big blow to the Niners, man. But it's a lot of guys out there who can still come in and get it done. I just think the guys in the front office really got to do their homework and who they bring in.
Now, a lot of times they make a lot about a rookie coming in and having some type of impact. Now, granted, Quentin Dial is not a rookie, but he is a guy who's getting his first opportunity to get a significant amount of playing time. Can you talk a little bit about how difficult it is or how that position, the D tackle position, how that weighs in as far as the level of difficulty to come in and be impactful?
I think it's all about the coaching. If you're coached up, if you do well and take to good coaching and you got a good attitude about practicing and you get all the reps that you need in practice and then you do extra, I think he'll be all right. I think with a defensive tackle, it usually takes about 2 or 3 years before you can really see the defensive tackle flourish. And with this being his second year, and he's 24 years old, 6'5", 318. He got good size, man. I just think that it's just going to be his mindset right now. And I think he can get the job done. I mean, he's played in the SEC, played at Alabama with Nick Saban, so he's prepared. Just got to go out there and get it done.
Yeah, it's interesting you bring up his height at 6'5", because obviously that zero tech, that is a position where it's all about leverage and who could be the lowest pad level. So do you think that 6'5", his height, do you think that get in the way as far as his ability to get leverage and really push the pocket back?
No. I mean, if you can ball, you can ball. It don't matter how tall or how short you are. I'm 5'11", you know what I mean? And I got the leverage, but, to most people, it's like, we don't want to take a chance on this guy because he's too short or whatever. But Haloti Ngata is 6'4".
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? So it don't matter. If you can ball, you can ball. It's always a place for you in the NFL if you can ball.
Haloti Ngata, though, is 6'4", upwise, but he's also 6'4" across. And that's what
right.
He's basically a sphere.
Yeah. Yeah, he's the same size vertically and horizontally.
I tell you an interesting thing about Haloti Ngata, because I actually started covering the Ravens. That's the new team I cover, but we still work this show because I want to keep my finger on the Niners' pulse. And going to a couple of their practices, Ngata at D tackle, he actually went back and they were fooling around, but the guy could field punts. So we're talking about somebody who is very athletic at that size, 6'4", 330. He's actually going to be moving to the 3 tech, and they got a guy named Brandon Williams, a shorter guy. He's 6'1", I think it is, like 3 something, and he's going to take over the 0 tech. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens.
There you go. There. Like I say, if you can ball, you will have a place in the NFL. And honestly, if this guy is 6'1", whatever, he can ball.
Yeah, and he's coming out of Missouri Southern. So we're talking about a small, relatively unknown school.
I don't know if you remember Kelly Gregg.
Yes. Yes, sir.
He's shorter than me, and I'm 5'11.8. Now, 0.8. Now, don't disrespect my height, man. 5'11.8. Get that point in there, man. But he was shorter than me, and he was holding it down, man, for at least 11 seasons, man. And then when he went out to Kansas City, he did the same thing. So, I mean, I'll say it again. If you can ball, there's a spot for you in the NFL, I guarantee.
So did you watch a lot of the Niners-Ravens game at all? Because one of the guys that I saw after that game that I was like, you know what, I'm not entirely sure that he can ball is one Mr. Mike Purcell. He was playing the nose because of all the injuries on the Niners defensive line, and I just did not think that he played a very good game. He got pushed off the ball. He wasn't getting leverage. I mean, every time that running back hit the line, he was basically 3 yards into the Niners defense before he got touched. What does it take for a nose tackle to really hold the point of attack and really not get moved around, since that's a position that you're pretty familiar with?
Now, he came from Wyoming, right?
I think so, something like that. He played in the CFL, which is what our producer over here is telling us. I think Wyoming's in Canada, but, I'm not sure.
All right. Well, I don't know. Maybe he's played in a 4-3 all his life. You know what I mean? And when you start playing in that 3-4, it's entirely different. It's like being a rookie all over again. And maybe he's doing too much guessing. When Coach Nolan came to the Niners, I was a true 0. Like, it wasn't a shade, or like I wasn't, shade in the center. Like, I was right over the center. And wherever he went, that's where I had to go. If he stepped to his left, I had to step to my right. It was kind of like a mirror. So if that's what they're doing, and he's getting pushed off the ball, which you shouldn't at 6'3", 308 pounds, or however much he weighs, I think he's probably doing a lot of guessing. Once you get this defense down, that's going to eliminate a lot of guessing, and you'll play a lot faster. So I just think with this guy, you know, coming over from the CFL, and you know, he's played football, you know, for 1 year professionally. I just think it's going to take a lot of reps.
You were absolutely right. He's a Wyoming guy.
Okay, that's what I thought. But you said he played in the CFL for 1 year, then?
I don't know. I just looked him up real quick. I saw he was coming out of Wyoming, and you're absolutely right. 6'3", 305. So it's we'll see if Brian's right. I'm reading here while I'm talking, and it's really difficult. I can't chew gum and walk at the same time. So I think
what do y'all think about Hyde?
I tell you what, I'm very excited about Carlos Hyde. I got to talk with him at the NFL Rookie Premiere in LA, and his size, he's a very solid running back. He was my number 2 back in this draft. Bishop Sankey was my number 1. But I really like the way he runs. He gets behind his pad level, and he's somebody that runs hard. He was able to get outside on those stretch plays, and he even excelled in pass protection also. So this is a guy that Ohio State, they put everything they had. Their offense was put on his shoulders, and he carried them to, I believe it was the Orange Bowl against Clemson. He carried them to that. I mean, the guy averaged 7 yards a carry. Yeah. I'm definitely big on him. I talked to him about who he patterned his game after, and it was interesting. He said Frank Gore, so it was a perfect landing spot for him, but he also said Ricky Williams.
Now, wait. Did he say that before he got drafted by the Niners?
This was after he got drafted. Rookie Premiere.
He probably was just saying that, dude.
But you know what? He was on record saying that before, so it wasn't just saying that to kind of, you know, talk about his new veteran teammate. He was saying that before, but you could definitely see certain aspects of Frank Gore's game as far as the patience, the ability to let that hole develop and then poke through and get to that second level, but also the pass protection. But then again, you could see Ricky Williams in him too, just his power running style. He's a guy that he's going to be the perfect number 2 back on that team.
Yeah, after seeing him run, man, I started to like cross out some people on my fantasy league team. I'm like, yeah, man, I got to get this guy because you know he's going to get in the game. Exactly. They probably run about 30, 35 times a game, and it's probably going to go up to 40 now with him in there. Like, it's like pick your poison, man. When you gonna have Frank Gore in there, then they're going to take Frank out and put him in there.
Right.
Like, what? That's going to be ridiculous, man. I can't wait to see that.
And if they do something that I think they're going to do, they showed a little bit of that at the training camp, the joint practices with the Ravens. Mm-hmm. A little bit of Bruce Ellington in the backfield, Randall Cobb style, the way the Packers have him in the backfield, to have that guy to come out and run that jerk route against the linebackers and get open. I mean, that's something that they could also bring. And then also they could give him the ball in the toss because, you know, he's a quicker guy. He can get outside.
So are they phasing LaMichael out?
Well, LaMichael's hurt. He has a dislocated elbow, and I'll be honest with you.
He always has a dislocated elbow.
There's something wrong with him all the time. I mean, he's somebody, I'm not big on him. They drafted him to be an explosive player, and I could count on my hand 5 explosive plays he's had since he's been in the league. 2 of those were kick returns.
I love the guy. I think he's great. I think that he's not as explosive because he's a boomer bust player. He plays football like I played rugby. You know, you're 5'11.8. I'm 5'6" on a good day. And so, but I played rugby in college, and I was fast enough to where I gave guys a lot of problems until I got caught. And the problem was when I got caught, I got smashed, right? And that's ultimately, I think, where LaMichael's at in the NFL right now. His inverted veer that he scored against Atlanta in the NFC Championship game, the Super Bowl year in 2012, was a thing of beauty. I mean, he gets it, and he just cuts, and he blows by everybody. It really is. I just don't think he's gotten a lot of opportunities, and he's not because, quite frankly, he's kind of like, he's a bit of a malcontent. He posts on Twitter like, oh, I'm not trying to be insurance. I don't work for Geico, whatever. And then he hashtags it with like, not about football. Come on. You know it's about football. And of course, the Niners see this, and so they're like, fine, you want to put that on Twitter, sit on the bench, enjoy it, have a good time. We're going to go draft some other running backs that are going to fit into the system and be all about the team like everyone else.
And this is his third year, man. So, I mean, this got to be his breakout year right here.
He better do something. But I don't know that I could say that.
Yeah, because I mean, if you're putting Bruce Ellington in the backfield, it's kind of like almost like a slap in the face.
Well, you know what they're doing? They're doing that to get that explosive.
That's what I'm saying. Like,
yeah,
Bruce, he's probably faster than Bruce Ellington.
Could be, but I just know that LaMichael, I mean, he's had opportunities, maybe not extensive opportunities, but you look at the preseason last year, he had plenty of chances to show that he could run the ball. He had plenty of chances, and we're talking about the preseason, and the guy didn't deliver. I am not he had a chance in the Super Bowl, fellas. He had a chance. The biggest level of them all, he had a chance to prove. What does he do? Puts the ball on the ground. That was a major momentum shifter. So I'm not huge on him at all.
I think, though, that if you are seeing Bruce Ellington in the backfield in practice, I think that's a good thing because I think they'll probably expect LaMichael James to pass block a little bit. They probably won't expect Bruce Ellington to pass block at all. They're going to run him out, you know.
Oh, I'm sure they're not.
No, of course. And so
not if they want to keep their quarterback.
Exactly. But just getting speed there on the team is going to be awesome because, I mean, you saw, who was the wide receiver that just absolutely demolished Richard Sherman in a preseason game? It was this past game. It was for the Minnesota Vikings. It was a second-year guy.
I see it.
It was nasty. I'll have to send you the gifs.
What's the guy's name?
Oh, no, it wasn't Cordarrelle Patterson. It was another guy. And he lines up in the slot, basically runs right at Richard Sherman, just makes that little head fake to the outside and blows right by him. And just Richard Sherman even tries to hold him. And it was a touchdown pass. Look at the touchdown passes in that Minnesota game, and you'll see what I'm talking about. But we need that kind of speed. We need that kind of speed on offense. And whether it's LaMichael James, Bruce Ellington, whether we find a way to tape some rockets on Anquan Bolden's feet, I don't care how we do it. We just need some speed on offense.
And not only speed, when you're going against a corner like Richard Sherman, you look. That's exactly why T.Y. Hilton killed him. That's exactly why Cecil Shorts killed him. And I know you guys have seen the tape when Stevie Johnson killed him. So when it comes to the wide receiver position, I think Stevie Johnson was the biggest acquisition because he is somebody that has that footwork, that elusiveness at the line of scrimmage to keep them from being able to get their hands on these receivers and disrupt their timing like they do with a Bolden, like they do with a Crabtree. And that's exactly why Sherman is able to neutralize Crabtree so much because Crabtree is not as good of a receiver at getting off the line of scrimmage. So Stevie, he's somebody. If you look at that one, he scored, I believe it was a 24-yard. No, it was a 19-yard touchdown in the red zone at the line. He freaked Richard Sherman. It was nice how they set it up because Sherman is not the type of corner that can operate in space, and that's really the knocking point on him. They set it up where they motioned C.J. Spiller to the outside, and they forced Sherman to stay on Stevie in the slot. Stevie gave him a nice move inside, took it back out, and then back inside. And he got right by Sherman. So the jam that he has to be able to get was eliminated. Then at the top of the route, Earl Thomas was playing out. It was single high, Earl Thomas. And at the top of the route, he gave Earl Thomas a move towards the post, just leaned, boop, stuck his foot in the ground and went to the corner, turned Richard Sherman in a circle, froze Earl Thomas, and the touchdown that he caught in the corner of the end zone, wide open. And those are the type of things that you need in order to beat that Seahawks secondary.
I'm glad y'all talking about wide receivers because I want to talk about my guy who I came into the league with, B. Lloyd. Now y'all think he got a shot? Now, he makes all the catches in the world. Like, I haven't seen him, like, miss a pass. Like, if he does, then it's rare. But the guy catches everything, man. And so
very sure-handed.
Now you got Anquan, Crabtree. Now you got Stevie Johnson. Is there a place for B. Lloyd?
I think there's a place for occasional play action, deep balls, but Stevie Johnson fell into their lap.
Yeah,
they did not think that they would be able to give up a 5th-round pick and get this guy. So I think that they brought Brandon Lloyd, B. Lloyd, in to be that number 3 guy. And as you know, Bolden and Crabtree, they typically bump to the slot when they have the 3 receiver sets. So B. Lloyd was going to be that vertical guy for them. So I think that he'll get some time. I think that he'll make the roster for sure. Okay. And it's just going to be a matter of the deep accuracy that him and Kaepernick are going to be able to do.
Cool.
See, I don't know that he makes the roster. I really don't. He's kind of on the edge for me. And not that I don't think that he's not talented enough to make the roster, because he still has one of my favorite catches really in the history of the NFL in terms of an actual pure catch. This is when he was still with the Niners. And
you're talking about the catch that got called back?
Yep, it was on the
holding.
Yeah, it was on the sideline where he turns. It was behind him. He turns around, tips the ball to himself, tiptoes on the edge of the line, catches it, and falls out.
No, that one actually counted. I was talking about another catch.
You're talking about the one-handed post?
The one-handed where he puts his hand up and it looks like he almost bends in half the wrong way?
Yeah, that's the one that got called back.
Yeah. So, I mean,
Quaim Harris was holding it.
He's got Quaim Harris. Oh, man. That's
just keep going.
Yeah, get that name off the show.
So I think that he can, but this is a team that's going to keep they've kept 5 wide receivers the last 3 years that Jim Harbaugh's been coach. And they haven't kept 6. Doesn't mean they can't, but they haven't yet. And so when you look at the wide receivers, he's
definitely making it then, because Kasim is going to play special teams.
Right. Well, yeah,
that's why they got him in there.
Kasim even last year was one of the 5. So you've got Ellington, and he's going to definitely make a roster spot. Then you've got Crabtree, Stevie, Bolden. There's 4 wide receivers right there, and you've got Patton, who I don't think he's going to get cut either. No. So that's already 5 wide receivers right there. So I think the only way that Lloyd makes the roster is if they keep 6, and if they keep 6, then Kasim doesn't make it. But why would they do that? Because then Kasim is the guy who helped stabilize the special teams this year. And so it's going to be one of those things where it's like, well, maybe Blake Costanzo coming back helps neutralize some of the loss of Kasim, and we keep 6 and Brandon Lloyd is there. So I don't know, man. I think it's going to be interesting. I don't know. I think he definitely has a role on the team, but he ain't playing special teams.
Stay healthy then.
I think he'll make it. And I think some of the guys like Abubakar Ventrone, he could kiss it goodbye. He could kiss the baby. And I think Craig Dahl also might be somebody that they're going to move on from. So I think if they could carry less safeties, like less DBs, then they might be able to carry B. Lloyd. But it's just so interesting because even you look at the DBs, I tell you, Oscar, you see my boy, my youngin', you saw him, right? Dante Johnson?
I did.
Very impressive.
He was looking good, man. He was.
NC State?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Pick 6 against the Ravens in practice too. He working with the first team. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of players. It's gonna be a tight race for a roster spot. Even you look at the linebackers. You got Will Hoyt. You got man. I mean, we talk about Chris Borland. You got Scove, who's probably not going to make it. I mean, there's so many guys on this roster. And then we don't know what they're going to do running back wise. Are they going to activate?
Lattimore, they're young in the defensive backfield, man.
Very young.
Very.
Figure Culliver and Cook, those are probably the veterans, quote unquote. But the best DB they have, as far as corners are concerned, is definitely T. Brock.
Okay.
He's a vet too. I mean, this is his 4th year. Remember, he broke his hand for a bit when he was kind of breaking out. He was going to be the nickel corner in 2012. Broke his hand against the Cowboys after he had 2 picks over the course of the first 2 weeks. Breaks his hand, and then that's when Culliver takes over. So, I mean, T. Brock hasn't been starting for a full year, but he's definitely a vet.
Yeah, man. Now, I'm just like, I'm old now, man, I guess. Because the only players that I played with there is Frank, which Frank is going to, this is like 10 for Frank, I think. Yeah. And Adam Snyder, who else? And Vernon. And then, of course, B. Lloyd. So that's like 4 guys, man.
Hey, well, that's what happened.
I remember I used to count 30 and 40, but now it's like 4.
Well, you look, I mean, it went from Nolan to Singletary to Harvey. You got 3 regimes. So you know what happens when new guys come in. They bring in their guys.
Yeah, don't forget the Tom Sula era. The Tom Sula era, all of one game.
The one game.
Yeah. So Anthony, tell me. I mean, let's talk here for a minute. Talk to me about Mike Nolan and a bit about what that was like especially because you've had experience with some of the other coaches too, right? Like you went to Chicago and played under some coaches there. So what was that like? I mean, because I think everyone who's a Niner fan who lived through what I call the decade of darkness, they remember Nolan as kind of like, we really wanted him to do well, and then he came in and kind of bungled the whole Alex Smith thing. What was it like being on that team and just being on a team that was so just really bad?
Oh man, it was sad, man. It was sad. Like you didn't even want to go to the grocery store, man. Like you didn't even want to show your face out in public, man. After a team just put 50 up on you, like you don't even want to go to Safeway after that. You know what I mean? Like it was just bad, man. I remember when we played Philadelphia, and their first play was a flea flicker. Yeah. And they completed it. It was like 60, 70 yards. And that just deflated us, man. Like once we seen that, we was like, man, here we go again, man. We're definitely about to lose this game for sure. And
wasn't that a game where McNabb was injured too? So it was like a backup quarterback that it did.
He probably, if he would have been sitting on a lazy boy, he probably still would have beat us, man. we were sorry that year, man.
That's cold.
My first year coming into the league, we went. This was when Jeff Garcia was there, and Terrell Owens, and Ryan Stone, Jeremy Newberry, all those guys. We went 7-9. Then they traded everybody, and then we went 2-14. Then Coach Nolan came in, and we went 4-12. And then my fourth year, we went 7-9 again. So I've been on the losing end, man, for a long time there, man. And it was just a sad time, man. It was a sad time, dude. And I remember one year, we won the first game. I think we played St. Louis, and it was a big game because, you know, they were in our conference, and we won the first game, and we're thinking like, man, things are going to change for us. We ended up getting spanked the rest of the season, man. I was so mad. And then my first year, we beat the Bears actually 49-7. So I'm like, oh yeah, we about to make some noise in the NFC, baby. Nope,
right, 7-9. Dennis Erickson. That was the first game. I was at the game.
Dennis Erickson and Cordell Stewart at quarterback for the Bears. So and I'm just like, yeah, man, we about to ball. We got Julian Peterson, we got Brian Young, we got me. We about to ball. 7-9. Man,
that's cold. Well, that's one of the things Brandon Lloyd said he was happy about, is being able to come back to the 49ers and possibly be a part of one of the winning teams. So
good.
Could definitely reason with you on that.
I'm glad I got that sound bite.
So you know what? Let's talk about pregame, and you know, we're going to kind of move on to the Bears. And I happen to be checking. You said something on Twitter that's had me cracking up. So I said, you know what? I want to check out some more of your videos and stuff. And I caught the video, the pregame, where you were in the middle of the circle and, you know, you did the dance and you showed them your six pack.
Yeah.
You remember? Talk to me about that. What's going through your mind pregame? Because you're a jokester, you know, you're a funny guy. Now, pre-game, do you still have that same mentality, or were you one of those guys that just, you know, was just so overly dialed into the game that you couldn't have fun?
No, man. That's not how the Bears are wired, man. The Bears are, man, everybody is a big kid. Everybody. So, you know, it was easy for me to make the transition to come to play ball here. Because I'm a clown just like everybody else. So you got guys like Tommy Harris, you got guys like Brian Urlacher, like all these guys who you think have huge egos. Like these dudes is just as playful as I am. So it's nothing for me to just be myself. So as far as the dance is concerned, they usually pick one person to break everybody down. You get in the middle, you do whatever you do, then you break everybody down. So this particular week, they said, all right, Double A, why don't you break us down? So that's what I came up with. And I guess everybody like responded to that so well that they didn't pick anybody else. They was like, all right, you're gonna do it every time now. And this is coming from like the leaders of the team, like Olin Kreutz, Brian Urlacher, like Lance Briggs, you know, guys who've been on the Bears for 10 plus years. And they like, hey, we want you to break us down every week. So that's how it all came about.
Yeah, that was a funny video, man.
Man, I wasn't even on Twitter heavy at the time, but I was trending. Like I was trending. I don't know if it was worldwide or whatever, but I did it on like a Monday Night Football game, and it was trending. But I didn't even know what trending was at the time. So like I'm looking at my mentions, like what is this? It was crazy, man.
Yeah, that was funny. They talked about that on the way you call it. Like once before they broke the commercial, they talked about that. I forget who the broadcaster was, but yeah, they got a good kick out of that. I'm gonna have to see, can I find the link?
It was Strahan.
Was it Strahan?
It was Strahan because it was the NFC Championship game.
I tell you,
in Green Bay.
Speaking of Strahan, I saw him at the Hall of Fame, and that guy got so skinny. It's crazy the way a lot of, and I noticed that a lot of the guys, the linemen, whether it be offense, defense, a lot of those guys end up trimming down. And then the DBs and receivers, the skill guys are the ones who get plumped, you know, like Solomon Wilcox, you know. But
did you guys see Jordan Gross? Jordan Gross basically lost the whole Jordan Gross since he stopped playing.
Really?
You know what it is? Guys like those, they have a hard time keeping the weight on, like all while they're playing. You know what I mean? And then once you stop and don't do anything, then that's when they start shedding. Guys like me, man, if I look at a piece of pizza, I gain like 5 pounds. Like, you know, when I stopped, it wasn't nothing for me to keep the weight on. I didn't have that problem.
That's
so,
funny.
like now, man, I'm big as a house, big as 2 houses.
Yeah, here it is right here, hitting the dance on him.
And it's a championship, man. And then,
yeah, to give it a spanking.
if you watch the Hall of Fame game, you see Michael Strahan try to break down the team exactly like how I did.
That's how it started. That we're gonna stomp them out.
See what I'm saying? He trying to bite my style, man.
That's funny, man. See that you don't get this on any other show. We in here talking about practice, talking about pregame dances, and telling you where a Hall of Famer got his dance idea from. Where else can you get that?
We talking about it all, man.
That's right.
Who the Niners got next?
The next game, Oscar, that is the Broncos, correct?
Indeedly doodly, the Broncos. It'll be the first game at Levi Stadium. Not a real game; it won't count, but it will be the inaugural kind of opening of the Levi Stadium. So, the Field of Genes, if you will. It's going to be a good time. Finally, we get out of that decrepit thing that we called Candlestick for so long.
Oh my God! Listen, when we had to play up there, I didn't know how bad the visiting team locker was. The visiting team locker room?
I've been in there. I've seen high school.
Oh, my God, dude. Like, I mean, you taking a shower, like, right next to some of the equipment. Like, it's so small. Oh, man. Jeez.
I tell you what was the worst was during halftime, you know, right before the half. I mean, this is so prehistoric. They would come. They had to rope off the concourse, right? And then the coaches would come down on the elevator. Now, it only goes 2 floors, but it feels like it's going 20, by the way. So, I mean, the ride is forever. So they would come off, and they would have to run across the concourse, down the steps, through the fans, onto the field, and into the locker room. That's the way they got in and out. It was crazy.
That's how the elevators work, because a lot of times the elevators don't work. And so the coaches will sometimes just stay in the box.
Well, you know what I used to do, because as the time starts to tick, you want to get down there and get on the field, you know, grab your guy, get your interview, whatever. What I used to do actually is leave out of the side of the box, run down the steps, run down the ramp, and then come out and go down onto the field. Because by the time I did all that, I would beat the elevator. You know, it was crazy. So, that's the stadium.
Maybe you're just fast, man.
Oh well, you know that too. You know, I still got my high 4.4, low 4.5 speed. So that's something else that factors in for sure.
And what, in the 30? In the 30 that day?
In the 60. No.
So Ron's using the metric system. He tried out for the CFL, and then from now on, he's using the metric system. It's 40 meters, man.
40 meters. Yeah. No, I had that 4.54 speed. I never had 4.44. I was, exaggerating on that. But to be real, yeah, 4.54. So.
All right. Yeah. I don't know what I can run right now.
Well, that's why it was so crazy seeing Clowney running at 4.55. I'm like, you're running the same time as I did. You know what I mean? It's crazy.
Wow.
Yeah, that's all you can say.
4.55, dude.
Yeah, and even his first 10-yard split was faster than a lot of receivers. Like his 10-yard split was competitive with Brandon Cooks, and I don't know if you guys watched what he did at the combine. He only
foolish.
He was given $100,000 because he was the fastest one. He ran the fastest combine in Adidas, fastest 40. He was a 4.33. He was beat. Dree Archer beat him. It was like a 4.31 or something crazy like that. But still, to be Clowney size and be competitive with those guys, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, that's amazing right there, man.
They're freaks coming out now. Freaks. The guy I mentioned earlier, Brandon Williams, the guy could get on his hands and walk like 19 steps on his hands. And we're talking about, again, 6'1", 330, something crazy like that. Look him up on you like to do the YouTube thing. Look up Brandon Williams walks on his hands. I'll see if I can find it, actually, and I'll post a link so Brian can forward it to you.
Yeah, you got to be careful with that type of stuff too, man. Because, that's all cool, man, but game film is going to rule all.
Oh, yeah, for sure. That's what makes the difference. I mean, this is just all.
Like, I don't know if you guys remember when Turron Gilbert from San Jose State jumped out the pool.
Jumping out the pool.
That's all he was known for.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And he got into the league, and I think he got like 3 years, maybe 4.
And you got Flipper, not the original Flipper, not Willie Anderson, but the other one. The other one, and that's JPP. He did those consecutive backflips.
Yeah. But he's legit, though.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Legit. Definitely legit. But, yeah, man, we appreciate you coming on. It was a nice little surprise that Brian Harrington put on. We appreciate that. You still got the Spice Hour going, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, go ahead and
whenever Brian want to have me, man, I'll be trying to call him all the time. He's so big time.
Oh, he big timing you. Yeah. Hey, B, how you gonna big time a professional?
I guess that's how he roll.
He's gonna talk to my agent.
Gotcha.
I think generally as payback, I think we should have Brian do an Anthony Adams like breakdown where he shows his 6-pack.
I've done that. I mean, if you listen to the Spice Hour, you will hear me and Anthony rap. We rap battle. We delve into acting.
You hear me rap.
Me and Spice battled, and we did 2 battles. We did a joke battle. Who could tell the best joke within 10 seconds of warning? And we did a freestyle. And 90% of the emails sided with me with the freestyling.
That's because they were trying to win some free headphones.
Hey, you can win a by the way, if you don't mind me taking 10 seconds, Antonio Brown Fathead. If you follow Antonio Fathead and myself, you're entered to win an Antonio Brown Fathead.
There you go. So any fans, listen up. Antonio Brown's a beast, by the way. So that's a good prize to have.
Yeah, I'm trying to get him on my fantasy league team.
Yeah, he's definitely one to have. That's for sure. 1,500 yards last year, so it's only going to get better.
He's 1 yard away from 1,500.
Okay, well,
we're rounding up,
basically. So, but yeah, Spice, we appreciate you coming on. Go ahead and give them your Twitter so that way they could come on. I retweet a lot of your stuff, and I always say,
appreciate it, man.
funny, man. It definitely had me cracking up.
Appreciate it, man. Add Spice Adams on everything. Spice Adams.
That's simple. So we're going to go ahead and go to a break, and we'll be right back. Talk a little bit about this game that the Ravens and 49ers played and give you a little preview of the 49ers Broncos. We'll be right back.
This is Michael Johnson.
This is David Nelson. This is Rob McClain.
This is Antonio Garay.
This is Antonio Brown.
Hi, this is Kyle Rudolph.
On the Pro Football Central Radio Network.
We're here. The Tether Tug dog toy is an interactive outdoor toy built for dogs of any size or activity level. Its unique design allows a pole to turn, flex, and flip the toy back and forth, providing hours of energy-burning play. Isn't it time for your dogs to pull, tug, and spin their way to better health? Check us out on the web at tethertug.com. That's tethertug.com.
That's funny. What we want to do is just move on and talk a little bit. We told our listeners that we're going to touch on the previous game, the Ravens 49ers, and then lead to the 49ers Broncos. So, Oscar, 3 guys that stood out to you in that game. Go ahead and shoot.
All right, so I'm going to go with one Mr. Quentin Dial and Tank Carradine. I'm actually going to put them together just as defensive line mates. I felt like they both played some solid games. I feel like Tank had a few more negative plays than Dial did, but when Tank flashed, he flashed way brighter than Quentin Dial did. So I feel like Tank had a higher ceiling and perhaps a lower floor, whereas Quentin Dial was a bit more steady. And that is probably just because he was able to practice a bit more last year. Remember, Quentin Dial was activated for a game or two before he got shelved again. So he's got some practice time in there that Tank didn't. Number 2, of course, without saying, is Carlos Hyde. And so that's someone who just showed good vision. Big dude, man, real big dude. On his long run, I think it was like that 19-yard run, it looked like someone was going to pop him. And they did right at the sideline, and he just kind of brushed them off with his arm and stood up on his feet and was like, yep, that just happened. Didn't bring me down. No big deal. Good in pass protection, too. That's always the test for a rookie.
Right.
Is how can you pass protect? And it wasn't perfect, but it was a whole heck of a lot better than some running backs who've been in the league quite a bit longer than Carlos Hyde. And I think that another one that gets honorable mention is Chris, don't call me Merton Cook. And I say don't call me Merton because that dude is lanky. Yeah. And when you look at him with his helmet on, his neck is really, really long. He's got the longest neck I've seen in a Niners uniform since Merton Hanks. And so that's why I call him don't call me Merton. But he had really, really good technique on the fade route where he defended and kind of pushed the wide receiver's hip. He basically played it perfectly, right? He drove to the hip of the receiver and drove him out of bounds. And so when that receiver caught it, he was out. The only thing is I wish he would have turned and caught the ball in flight. But honestly, that's gravy on top of it. So those are the 3 for me. There's obviously some other folks that played really well. Bruce Ellington also played well, and a couple of other folks. But those are going to be my 3, Dial and Tank together, and then Carlos Hyde, and then Chris Cook.
I'm just going to add a couple names, and I like how you mentioned Bruce Ellington. You heard earlier on the show, I'm not a fan of LaMichael James, so I like what Bruce Ellington brought to the table as far as his explosiveness in the return game. I like what they're able to do with him from the slot position. Him and Bethel Thompson, they hooked up 2 or 3 times in a row on one of the drives late in the game. He caught a nice ball across the middle in a contested catch he made. And then, again, just looking at what he's able to bring out the backfield, I'm really interested to see how that works. So I'm going to definitely agree with you on Bruce Ellington. Obviously, Tank and Quentin Dial, I mean, those guys are pocket pushers. You look at what Quentin Dial, he lived in the backfield. So that was really good to see. And he played the whole game. Now, a guy that we didn't mention in this segment, but we mentioned a little bit before, and that's Dante Johnson. And that's a guy pre-draft, I was so high on him. And when the 49ers were able to get this guy, I was just very excited because he's a guy that, before the Senior Bowl I really liked, and then seeing him at the Senior Bowl. Now, just looking at him in this game, that one play. Now, Deontay Thompson, number 83, that is actually the fastest guy on the Ravens. He reportedly is faster than Torrey Smith. Yeah. So just being mentioned in the same name as Torrey Smith, that's speed. But Dante Johnson took and he ran with him on one of those go routes. Now, granted, there was a good 7-8 yard cushion, but he was able to flip his hips and run with him down the sideline. Almost made the pick. The ball was a bit underthrown. Even if it was thrown accurately, he still would have got his hand on it to knock it down. So Dante Johnson is another one to mention. Very high on him. And then in the joint practices, like I said, he had a nice, it was about a 30-yard pick six off of Joe Flacco, working with the first team. So those are some guys that definitely look back on and give them kudos for what they were able to do. Now, let's talk a little bit about this game coming up. We got the opener. Levi Stadium's going to open, and it's going to be really good. They had their, the Earthquakes, I think they're called, right? The soccer game. That was the
San Jose Earthquakes. Used to be the Clash.
The guinea pig match to kind of see how the stadium will test out. Now they're going to have this next one, an actual football game, and that's going to be quite a sight to see with Peyton Manning and the gang coming to town. That's going to be a very interesting game. Anybody in particular that you're going to be looking for to carry on the momentum or really show out this week?
So one of the things that people were freaking out about was the preseason game and the score and how the defense kept getting pushed around. And, this is where I like to quote Allen Iverson when I say we're here talking about practice. Like, this is not a real game. It's not a game. This practice is what it is. And so I don't care so much about the final score. I want to see if Ian Williams is going to play. Does he help solidify that nose tackle position? Because that's a big deal. The Mike Purcell was getting pushed around left and right, and that was a big deal. I also want to take a look at Joe Looney. Does he improve? Joe Looney was shaky at best, we'll say, because it seems like he is the exact opposite player of Alex Boone, where Alex Boone can play. He's much better in the run game than he is in the pass game, but he's still a solid pass protector. Joe Looney, it felt like he was a better pass protector than he was a run game guy. And so I want to see some improvement there, and I also want to see some improvement with Kilgore. I also want to see something from a backup quarterback, really anything.
Yes.
Josh Johnson looked like the most polished of the quarterbacks, but, I'm looking at Colt McCoy goes 7 for 7 in his first 7 throws for 100 yards, and I'm thinking to myself, come on, man, you're getting outperformed by the person that we cut, who was barely a third-round pick, who can't even see over his center. Now, don't get me wrong, I love Colt McCoy. I'm a Texas guy. I saw him carve up defenses here at Texas, watched him live with my own eyeballs. Great quarterback. But come on, man. Like, you should not be getting outplayed by Colt McCoy at this point in your career. No one on the 49ers roster should be getting outplayed by Colt McCoy.
Yeah, you talk about the quarterback position. I think, as you mentioned, Josh Johnson was the one that looked like he was the most in control. And it's funny because throughout the year, what do we ask Kaepernick to do more of? What do we ask him to do more? Check it down. And what was Josh Johnson doing very often? He was checking it down. So it's just one of those things where in the preseason you want to see a guy really go ahead and let it rip, so to speak. But the quarterback I want to focus on, and I would like to see some improvement. And I know it's asking for a lot. It really is. But I would like to see one Blaine Gabbert come out and, you look at some of the throws that he made, letting the ball, releasing the ball high on those that quick outs that Patton ran. What you just typed on there, come on, man. That's the Patton turned around and looked at him after that one throw. Like, literally, come on, man. Like, I'm trying to win a spot, and here it is, I'm open, and you throw it to me like you're throwing to Manute Bowl, that is. So it's just like, come on, you got to follow through on your throw, step towards your target. And that's something else that he did on another one. It literally looked like he was on the pitching mound where he threw it and his back foot was in the air. So it's just, how do you do that? You've been in the league for this amount of time. Technique. Don't lose your technique. Now, I haven't been to 49er practices.
Thank you.
All
Yeah,
right.
that's that Blaine Tears video. If you haven't seen it, just Google Blaine Tears because it should really be the only hashtag that anyone ever mentions with Blaine Gabbert.
Okay. Well, like I was saying, I mean, this was one of those throws where he just completely didn't follow through. And then you look at the crossing route, the slant that he threw to Chuck Jacobs, who unfortunately had that injury on the return, but it was behind him. So I want to see Gabbert have some more control of this offense. I want to see him more confident in the pocket, step towards your target, make the throws, deliver the ball to your guys who are trying to win spots, and give them a chance to win their spot. Give them a chance to make a play. I also want to see Chris Borland. I want to see him continue to trust his instincts, even though a guy like that, a young player like that, they use his aggressiveness against him. And you saw that in the play action to where they popped it over him to, I believe it was Owen Daniels. So I want to see him just continue to develop and get more comfortable in this defense. A lot of people are saying that he is going to compete with Michael Wilhoit for taking over the spot. Patrick Willis said that if I believe if Wilhoit wins the job, Wilhoit plays Jack and he'll move to Mike. But if Borland wins the job, Borland will play Mike, and Willis will play Jack. So it's interesting the way this thing is working out. As you know, Will Hoyt, that's my guy, so I'm always going to side with him, especially he played pretty well on what is that, Saturday? On Saturday. Yeah. So I want to see Borland continue to develop. I want to see more play out of Dante Johnson. Jimmy Ward is a guy we didn't mention, but he showed that he could come down in the box and make plays at the line of scrimmage. He did get beat. That was a very solid. I mean, he didn't have to blow the running back up. He just secured a tackle, and that's what he did. So I like that. I want to see him continue to play because, again, this is a guy who didn't really get any reps or anything until training camp starts. So you want to see how he develops also.
Now, going back to the Borland, Will Hoyt kind of issue, I think this is going to be one of the bigger issues for the 49ers. And I'll be honest with you, man. I mean, I like Will Hoyt too, but I did not see a single reason why Borland should start over Will Hoyt at this point. Mm-hmm. There was, I mean, don't get me wrong, Borland might develop into, a solid backup and a good special teamer, but I saw slow feet. I saw someone who, he probably got away with a bit more of his instinctual play in college because, he wasn't trying to go up against tight ends who are running 4.5, 4.6 40s, right? He's now going up against absolutely elite players, and you take one wrong step in the NFL at the linebacker position, and you're out of a play. Like that's how important technique is and play recognition is. And I don't feel like he's talking like Borland right now is relying on play recognition. He's relying on his instincts. And sure, he's flying around the field, but I mean, shoot, I could fly around the field doesn't mean I'm going to be effective. Mm-hmm. And so Borland, it's one game, granted, but I did not see Borland in any way, shape, or form live up to this kind of hype where he might even compete for a starting gig. I thought, as a matter of fact, that Shane Scov, in instances, outplayed Borland. Now, granted, Scov has a bit of a heads up because he played in the same defense at Stanford. As a matter of fact, he was wearing the green dot on his helmet on the third team. Yeah. So this is a guy who already has the confidence of the defense of the Vic Fangio to call the plays, to understand the system, and so you're looking at someone who, yes, undrafted out of Stanford, but someone who knows the defense and who can wear the green dot already versus someone who's just kind of flying around like a madman with just kind of instinctual play, but often finds himself out of position. I just didn't see it after one game.
Yeah, and it's interesting you mentioned that because they, like I said earlier, they use that against him, and that's something that teams will continue to do. I mean, you look, even the Cardinals, they're a team that they're going to run the ball well with Ellington. I mean, the guy averaged 5.4 last year. So they're going to continue to develop him. And what works off of that is, play action. And, once you get an aggressive linebacker like that to continue to come forward and to try to make those downhill tackles, you play action, drop shot right over top of them. So that's an excellent point. Now, just looking at the Broncos, I tell you one thing that I'm going to be really anxious to watch, and that's my guy, Bradley Roby. I want to see how he plays. This is a guy, when that pick came up for the 49ers, you could not tell me that Bradley Roby was not going to be the selection. Talking to him, he really liked Donatel, everything, man. And it seemed like it was just a perfect match. And, hey, they took Jimmy Ward, and that's seeming to work out. But I want to see Bradley Roby come in. I want to see how he's able to work out. They said that he's pushing for time at the nickel spot. Apparently Chris Harris is still working his way back. So that's going to be interesting. Another guy I want to watch is Duke Iheanacho. And this is a guy, a local, San Jose State. And it was actually the game against the 49ers in the preseason last year that he really made his name known. And he came up and he was really heavy in run support. So those are some guys I want to see. Of course, want to see, Cody Latimer. I want to see what he's able to do. How I want to give the 49er DBs a chance to go up against them as well. This is a good test for their defensive backfield, obviously with Peyton Manning, but with your Emmanuel Sanders, with your Bebe Thomas, with these guys, Julian Thomas. That's going to be a really good test for whoever's playing Mike, whether it's Willis or Borland. And it's just, this is a really good, just overall a good way to gauge where some of these guys are at. So I'm looking forward to this game.
Yeah, this game for me is about actually getting to see Jimmy Ward in action because we didn't get to see a whole lot of him. We saw a little bit of him, I think, against the Ravens. We saw him, of course, get into the backfield on a DB blitz and get that running back and blow up that play. And then we saw him, get beat a little bit. As you would imagine, you saw him struggle, but you also saw his quick recovery speed as well. The Broncos are going to run basically exclusively 3 wide. I mean, they run that formation just about 3/4 of their plays. So this is a game where Jimmy Ward is going to get a lot of time, at least in the early goings. He's probably going to get a full quarter. Hopefully, we'll get to see him for about 20 snaps. And this is also where I'm going to start watching, the linebackers and a Will Hoyt and see if he can cover someone like a Julius Thomas, depending on what linebacker role he's playing. And so, that's really where I'm going to be focusing on the defensive side of the ball. And then on the offense, I'm just looking for anything at this point, something that's not named Carlos Hyde.
Yep, that's been the offense. Carlos Hyde was it. Jewel Hampton can't pass block. That's something that they were working on in the practice against the Ravens. And we got the 2 street guys, Winston and Smith. These guys are, yeah. You want to not say anything too bad about them. So I just let my silence speak for itself. So we definitely need to see something out of this offense. So. Man, that time went pretty quick. I have to say, it definitely flew by. Question for you: Better Rivals. When is the next podcast that we have for that? When can we hear you on Better Rivals again?
So Better Rivals, that's the podcast I do on the regular. We're back into our weekly cadence. So we're going to be recording one tomorrow night. And we're going to be doing, kind of an in-depth preview of what you should be looking for the Broncos, as well as a review of some of the kind of news and highlights of what happened here with the Ravens. So a little bit of what we covered here, but definitely a bit more in depth into some more schematic stuff because we'll get to break down some film in there because that's where I like to geek out and start talking about some of those film concepts. But it'll be a good show. You can always catch us on iTunes, and if not, you can always go to 49erswebzone.com/podcast. It's definitely a good time, but we're recording tomorrow, and it'll be up Wednesday night.
So make sure you guys tune into that. We always like to cross promote our shows, so stay alert for that link. And you could check on Twitter. You could follow Oscar at
Better Rivals. Pretty consistent. I try and make it easy on y'all.
There you go. You can follow myself at @TDavenport_PPI. Don't forget our show itself, which is at PF Central. Give us all a follow if you're not following. If you are following already, please be sure to interact. We love to talk shop. That's the show, folks. Next week we'll come back, review the Broncos game, and look at the following game as well. Thanks for listening in, and we're out of here.